I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Embassy Parks for this gracious invitation, the fabulous, really beautiful Neha for orchestrating all of this, and of course, my host. I think, Reese, the message that you read out was so powerful and really so befitting. I almost thought that Reese had actually peeped into my script for this afternoon. Okay. All right, so growing up in a Fauji family, we used to look forward to the annual vacation. It was something that we treasured and something that our childhood memories were made up of. We'd take off for a month at a time, pore over Daddy's aviation maps, chart a route for ourselves, and simply be lost to the rest of the world. Imagine doing this year on year, every year. Apart from that, we had this routine of packing up, moving out, settling in, packing up once again just when you were getting comfortable, moving out, and having to settle in all over again. I thought that was a fabulous experience. It just grew us up hugely. So much so that it also interfered with my own choice of careers. For the longest time, I remember when people asked me, what do you want to become when you grow up? I would look at them, look them in the eye, and say, a truck driver. And, when I said it 3 or 4 times, worried relatives were dispatched to deal with this problem that I had. I only remember changing it towards the fag end when I had difficulty in choosing whether to be a goods truck driver or an oil tanker driver. I couldn't make up my mind who had more fun. And so we'd have people come and say, but why? I said, just imagine the fun they have. They're on the move all the time, traveling, seeing new places. All those states that you have written behind the truck, those are the places they can travel to. Do you know? So, my grandmother, she would look at my mom and she would say, it's those shorts you make her wear. Gets her head full of these stupid ideas. Do you know it's not safe and you don't make enough money also? So I said, Pati, don't worry. I can look after myself. I was very free with my fists when I was growing up. And as for money, you don't need too much, right? If you're eating in dhabas, sleeping in the shade of your truck, how romantic is that? Without a care in the world. Don't have to even touch your books. Yeah. Well, I can ride, I can drive, I can play hockey. I'm also guilty of hooky many times in my life. I can play competitive football, cricket, get my head under the hood of a car, run the world's highest marathon at the age of 52. I can do a huge amount. I also recognize there are things I cannot do. Well, I can't swim to save my life. I can't play a musical instrument, and I'm trying hard, but my son has unkindly informed me that I just don't have the inclination. Would you believe it? How cheeky of him. Yeah. So I think today's forum, there are 2 messages that I have for you. The first of them focuses on the individual, the self. And the second on what I'd like to refer to as the ecosystem. And I think both of them working together will create the symphony that you will need in order to participate more fully and achieve the ambitions that you have. Have you looked in the mirror lately? Everybody has. What do you see? Do you like what you see? How often have you looked at yourself and said, I love myself. I like what I see. I like the fact that I'm responsible for my actions and the consequences of my actions. The first part of this whole piece is around accepting who you are, what you can and cannot do, and being, as Maya Angelou said so beautifully, comfortable in your own skin. One of my first reservations of the term gender blindness, where you do not show the recruiter. I'm given to understand organizations are resorting to a practice which includes strategies around gender blindness. So don't show gender. And guess what? More women are coming in. I couldn't help feeling sad when I saw that. And I said, oh my goodness, I have to mask myself. I have to actually be somebody else in order to be counted. In my view, this is something I would never do. And I don't even expect it of someone else. I think it's important for each of us to wear our identity with pride. I'm proud of being a woman. And I will not have it any other way. And if somebody has a problem with that, I don't want to be part of that reality. Well, when I grew up, I had a very nurturing childhood, a safe and comfortable environment, loving, doting parents. I can't remember not doing what I wanted to do. I don't remember being disappointed about anything. It's not there. It might have happened, could have happened, small instances, but there's no lasting memory of that. When I was expecting my first son, I rode from Indiranagar to Desai Nursing Home on my bullet and admitted myself to deliver him. The doctor looked at me and she said, "You should have delivered the baby and called me for the naming ceremony." Very matter-of-factly. And under her breath, she said, "It would have saved me a lot of stress." I don't care how you felt, but I was really in a bad shape, the doctor said later. Yeah? I recognized a very important lesson. And that privilege is invisible to those who enjoy it. The privilege of good health makes you believe everybody should have a similarly easy experience with maternity and childbirth. The privilege of a safe and comfortable environment allows you to defocus that everybody has different experiences, not all of them as rosy as the ones you recount. Privilege is something that mistakenly expects you to believe that women, see, at the end of the day, we're all women, right? So we're all similarly placed in this huge patriarchy that we're fighting. There cannot be anything further from the truth. That realization, about 6 years ago, got me to champion the Maternity Amendment Act and revise the maternity leave in India from 3 months to a paid leave of 6 months with childcare support. I think it's key for all of us. And Neha was remarking over a little discussion that we had, Ashish, Neha, and myself. And she said, this whole equality thing is not just about getting the men involved, but it's also about the women. People tell me, give me a male boss at the workplace. Women. When you discuss wanting to take off a little time to be with your child and you have a woman boss, I'm given to understand she's likely to tell you, don't do natak about this, huh? I've also been there. Get yourself a bike. There are these agencies you can hire them from. So she will get into what's called solution mode faster than she's listening to the problem. Because there's a whole sense of, I've been there now, come on. Get on with it. Yeah? When, you know, when the unfortunate Mumbai blasts occurred, Mr. Chidambaram, who was the Home Minister at that time, had actually suggested that states create security structure. He called that the high-level security setup in each state in order to actually protect what he called installations of economic importance. And it was important for us to set up this coordination committee. At that time, I was part of the Electronic City Industries Association, being voted in after completing the elevated road to Electronic City. And, you know, the audience was so emotional, and they said, you have to be the champion for everything that happens to us. And then I put up my hand and I said, I will chair the Security Council. Everybody thought, wow, you know, this woman is really making some moves. I felt proud about myself and quickly dashed off a note to security heads in the industrial estate of Electronic City, which happens to be India's richest industrial estate. It has about 186 companies. I sent off this communication to all the security heads, to the local police station, Electronic City Police Station, to the army, and you know, the paratroopers. We have a whole protocol of security for anti-terrorism. And I said, we have this meeting at 2 p.m. I think it was a Wednesday. I went to the meeting. I'd done a lot of preparation on security, security preparedness, definitions of terrorism, Naxalism, all kinds of movements, blah, blah, blah. I was all set to convene this meeting. At 2 p.m. sharp, I took my seat at the head of the table, and I was informed by the office boy that he had made 50 cups of tea and coffee, because he thought he should be fair, you know, people could choose between tea and coffee. He just wanted to indicate that he had both options. At about 2:15, I was the only person in the room. And he came to me and he said, Madam, shall I serve the tea, coffee? Because I've already made these 50 cups of tea and coffee. So I said, okay, I don't mind. I mean, if they aren't going to come in to get their tea and coffee, I might as well drink a cup. I also encouraged him to have a cup, which he accepted gratefully, because I think he'd stressed himself all morning making those 50 cups of tea and coffee. At about 2:30, nobody had shown up. Nobody had shown up. And I recognized, with a sinking feeling, that I had been stood up. And here I was convening the first Security Council meeting for the Electronic City Industries Association, and I got non-verbal, passive feedback that nobody cared about that. The nobody at that time included male heads of security at the various enterprises who are our member companies. I sat for a moment and I thought, this is the time for me to escalate. I mean, this has to be the worst example of bad behavior. This is not even office etiquette. I thought I would speak to the people who had actually nominated me and tell them, ask your security heads to behave themselves. Ask the police to respect people. You know, I thought of all of these dialogues. And then I just closed my eyes and I pictured Mohandas Pai, who was my boss then, speak with Mr. Azim Premji and said, Security Council for her was a bad idea. We shouldn't have asked her to take that up. We set her up. Give it to another guy and gently explain to her it doesn't matter, it's not her fault. And I opened my eyes with a start because I could not continue listening to that commentary. Yeah? I took out my laptop and I dashed off the minutes of the meeting. I said, I recognize a very important thing today. Security is not the subject of boardrooms. Security is something that we discuss at the field where the action is actually happening. Going forward, security meetings will happen on site. Dash it off with my signature. I went on to lead security for about 7 years after that with the state as part of the high-level security committee. This taught me a very, very important lesson. This taught me a really important lesson. It doesn't matter what you think about yourself. You're looking in the mirror, seeing somebody proud and confident. Am I proud of myself? Yes, I am. Feeling good about myself? Of course I am. But I think what's important is your ability to actually bring what you feel for yourself to bear on a real situation, and to have the grace to be able to be versatile with the experience that you actually have. Gartner in 2004 did a huge research, and they had this trick question. They said, where will the future professionals be? Will they be concentrated around being generalists or specialists? You remember that time there was this huge debate of should you become generalist or specialist? So the audience was kind of divided. 50%, about 50% said generalists because they thought it's better to have a hand in many pies. Who knows what will happen? World economy, politics, anything can change, anything. It's good to be multi-skilled. And then there were the specialists who believed going deep into an area was the most important thing. That's when Gartner introduced a new term, and they called it versatilist. And the notion of versatilism includes a combination of generalist and specialist skills, but importantly, being able to attend to a situation or a problem that you want to solve. Yeah? The ability to be able to use both of them to bear positively on a situation that you want to be able to influence. So my first message is it's important for you to connect with who you are, how you feel about yourself. And I'm hoping that reflection will cause every one of us to be more compassionate. You know, somebody asked me, I think it was Neha, who said, what's the biggest quality of a diversity champ in organizations? And I said, I cannot, and I haven't changed my response in the last 10 years. I've continued to say compassion. I think that's the biggest quality. I think the second piece is to allow yourself to focus not just on how you feel about yourself, but how you would like others to feel about your intervention. It's important to consider that in order that it is effective. Because remember, somebody else also feels passionately about themselves. Yeah? And so it's important for you to be able to leverage those synergies. That's key. The second piece is about the supportive ecosystem. And today we have tons of terms bandied around the space, you know, gender equality and gender blindness, equity. And so I'm just going to kind of share some thoughts on each of these. When I was younger, I used to do a lot of dirt track racing. But I had a problem. It was a technical problem. You know, I was structurally not built to ride some of those dirt track bikes. I was just too short. Yeah. So there was this guy who would watch me, but I would stay on the bike. But I think he looked at it and he said, if the bike was a little shorter, I think she'd be more effective. And he went about fabricating a frame for me. You know, at that time, when I was growing up, we had the famous BSA bonds. Do any of you remember that? The BSA bond bikes. So I got one fabricated, and I used to ride in Agram. I'm just saying Agram because that's very close to this particular space, yeah, on the army grounds. That time the army was kinder and allowed us to use those tracks. He modified the bike, and then he looked at me and he grinned, and he said, kill them, baby. Later, that man became my husband. I'm using this example to throw light on this huge debate around equal opportunity. I think a lot has been said about creating the same space and the same set of opportunities equally for both men and women. But I think the new term that we've started and must become more mindful of is a term called gender equity. While equality, you know, and if you Google, you have this little picture of 3 individuals with different abilities, different heights, standing and trying to peer over a tallish wall to watch a football game on the other side, right? Equality in that illustration suggests that each of them is given a box to stand on of the same size. The results, the tallest guy is towering over the wall. He didn't need that kind of elevation. Yeah? The other two, one's just got his head, eyes in line with the wall, doesn't help too much, and the other still cannot make it to see over the wall. And the illustration goes on to say, equity is being able to provide the individual what he or she needs. And therefore, while equality is providing the same thing to everyone, equity is about creating a fair and just system. At Infosys, for a long time, we kept talking about maternity leave. We kept talking about women dropping out. We had a brief discussion, Ashish, Neha, and myself, about not having the talent pool. And we said, we want to create this equal opportunity for everybody. They just keep dropping out. It's not going to happen. Mark my words, it's not going to happen just because you have the same set of positions available for both men and women. We've created today a set of guidelines that we've actually spelled out around HR processes. We've created something called, Nisha is somewhere here, we've created a maternity handbook, which actually provides guidelines on the accommodations that we will provide. We've provided a manager guide to help managers appreciate how to provide those, so that there is equality of these processes across. We've adopted the Maternity Amendment Act not just in terms of childcare support, but we've created something called a physical infrastructure called the Mums Net. And the whole intention of the Maternity Amendment Act, which people tend to forget, is the integration of the woman back to the workplace. So the Mums Net is a huge learning, bonding, networking infrastructure that allows women to work in the comfort of this safe space under the mentorship of senior people. So this has kind of been institutionalized. It's early days yet. I'd like to see that this effort is actually going to bring more women back. We've created programs because, what typically happens in another discussion that we had, I think we've spawned a huge generation and corporations of project managers. But the actual growth in this ever-changing world where learnability is key is for people who can get deeper into technology. How do you make technology streams as aspirational? Yeah. So we've got a program that we've launched. It's called Back Like a Boss, which actually reaches out to women who've been on breaks for any reason, looking to make a comeback. It's an internship which trains them and has them working in live projects with mentors. And a lot of people have told me, do they need that much support? Come on, give me a break. I said, they need that much support. And you're not getting a break. Because I think sometimes you just need to have to spell it out and make those considerations. I hope, before I'm done, gender will move out of the diversity conversations that we have worldwide. Yeah? It will no longer be something that requires the kind of focus. My expectation is that more of us will stand up, more and more women will stand up for what they believe in, participate fully to create that ecosystem that they're looking at. The other piece and the other practice is something called gender mainstreaming. The gender mainstreaming piece is about considering, theoretically, it's about considering the implications of the views of both men and women on matters of policy in order that it creates a space that allows for the participation of all. So when we're looking at policy, when we're looking at growth, when we're looking at career paths, when you have to take that break, people told me, you're making it sound like one has to constantly be stuck to the grind, you have to be performing, really delivering the best results. What about taking a break? I took a break when I delivered my children. I'm happy I took the break. I was busy being mom. And let me tell you, you will be mom all your life. They will still be your children. And anyone who tells you that the worst is over after they've turned 2 doesn't know what they're talking about. They will need you every step of the way, and you will be there for them because you want to be there for them. I'd like to conclude with something that's stuck in my mind forever. You know, in Stephen Covey, in his immensely readable book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, made a reference to something that I found really significant. He said, to every stimulus, there is a response. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies your power to make a choice. I would like to invite everyone, men and women. My sons keep telling me, Ma, you're going on about this feminism thing. What will happen to us? You know? And so I constantly tell them, of course, they're too young to understand, but I said, you know, feminism, sadly, has become synonymous with man-hating. That's the worst thing that can happen. Men are the best allies for the change that you want to actually see. Leverage them. They are here to support you. It's important for you to be able to leverage that effectively. I do not believe unconscious bias training should be reserved for men. I do not believe men need to be made more sensitive about various things. Shamelessly, you know, many years ago, I used to speak to senior leaders and I said, what is it about maternity that you don't understand? I'd like to take a class. Nobody turned up. Yeah? So, I think it's another stereotype. It's a stereotype that we keep repeating over and over and over again. Many times as women, we forget the influence that we play in the growing up of boys. Who made the guys the way they are? The women in their lives. Yeah? That is the truth. So I think so feminism, and all my research on feminism suggests, it's about creating an opportunity for both men and women in a fashion that allows everyone to prosper. Thank you very much.